I never thought my life would implode over something so absurd. I mean, who would? Up until I was 23, I lived what most people would call an unremarkable but stable life. Suburbs, second-hand car, community college classes, and a job stocking overnight shifts at the grocery store. My name is Nate, and I was the kind of guy who flew under the radar, never too loud, never too ambitious, but always reliable. My parents would have called me the golden child once. Back when that meant I didn't talk back, didn't sneak out, and didn't screw up. That title didn't last forever. Because then there was Casey. My younger sister, Casey, was 2 years behind me, but somehow always 10 steps ahead when it came to attention. She was loud, charismatic, unpredictable. The kind of girl who could cry her way out of a speeding ticket and then make the cop apologize. People loved Casey. Teachers bent rules for her. Boys followed her like puppies. Our mom worshipped the ground she walked on, and Dad just looked tired all the time. We weren't close, but we weren't enemies. Not yet. When we were kids, she'd lie and get me in trouble. Harmless stuff like, Nate said a bad word, or he hit me. It annoyed me, sure, but I figured all siblings did that. It wasn't until high school that I noticed the patterns. She lied more often than she told the truth, to friends, to teachers, to my parents. It was like she couldn't breathe unless she was spinning a story. Still, I kept my distance. I was working double shifts and saving for a car. I didn't have time for family drama. I told myself, keep your head down, stay out of her mess. Our house looked perfect from the outside. Split level, nice lawn. Mom baked cookies every Sunday. But underneath, it was like a stage play where everyone knew their lines, and no one believed a word of it. Dad drank a little more than he should have. Mom covered it up with smiles and casseroles. And Casey got everything she wanted. Until she didn't. The last Christmas before it all blew up, I remember Casey watching me open a gift. A plain hoodie and a gas card, with this look on her face. Not disappointment. Not jealousy. It was something colder. Like she'd decided something. Something shifted that year. I don't know what triggered it. Maybe she felt left behind. Maybe I represented a version of stability she couldn't fake. Or maybe she just wanted chaos. And I gave her the perfect excuse to start it. Because 3 months later, I'd be standing in my parents' living room, accused of something no brother should ever hear, and not one person asked if it was true. It started with a phone call at 6:13 a.m. I was half asleep, dreading my shift, when Mom's name lit up my screen. Before I could even say hello, her voice tore through the line, sharp and trembling. Casey's pregnant, and she says it's yours. I didn't understand. I thought I'd misheard. I actually said, wait, what? There was a pause. Then came the sobbing. From her. From Dad in the background. Yelling. Panic. I kept saying, what the hell are you talking about? But no one heard me. Or cared. By 7:30, I was standing in our living room, face to face with my sister, who was crying softly on the couch, wrapped in a blanket like some tragic victim. Our parents flanked her like bodyguards, and every eye in that room looked at me like I was a monster. She didn't say anything at first. She just looked at me like she was scared out of her mind. Then she whispered, I didn't know how to tell anyone. I didn't want this. I didn't mean for it to happen. That's all it took. I shook my head. What the hell are you talking about, Casey? Dad shouted then. Something about denial. About shame. About how I was supposed to protect her, not destroy her. Mom sobbed harder, rocking back and forth. And Casey? She just watched me blankly, coldly. I tried to explain. Tried to say it was impossible. That I had never done anything even remotely like that. But the more I denied it, the more guilty I looked to them. To everyone. That's when the rage hit me. I yelled. I cursed. I called her a liar to her face. She shrank away, started crying harder, and whispered, He's scaring me. Dad pushed me. Hard. Told me to get out. Said I'd done enough damage. And that was it. That's the day I lost everything. No one asked for proof. No one questioned how it could be true. No DNA test. No logic. Just blind belief in the girl who always knew how to twist a story. My phone blew up over the next week. Not from friends, but from people calling me a predator, a monster, a freak. I got suspended from work while they reviewed the situation. A girl I was talking to blocked me without a word. Someone keyed my car. I tried texting Casey. I begged to tell the truth. I said I didn't care why she did it, I just needed her to stop. To fix this. She left me on read. Days passed. Then weeks. Eventually, my parents stopped answering altogether. No one wanted to hear my side. Because the accusation was enough. And in a world that thrives on outrage, you don't need to be guilty. You just need to be accused. When the storm hit, it didn't come all at once. It unraveled me thread by thread. The first thread? My job. Management couldn't have someone under investigation for a family-related accusation, handling customer goods. I wasn't even arrested, but they didn't care. They offered a smile and a severance check. I tore it up in the parking lot. Then my lease. My roommate, a guy I'd known since high school, said it was too weird having me around. His girlfriend didn't feel safe anymore. So I packed up what I could, sold what I couldn't, and moved into my car. No one returned my calls. Not my cousins. Not my childhood best friend. Not even my godmother, who used to sneak me candy at church. People I hadn't spoken to in years popped up online to say I was disgusting. My inbox became a landfill of hate. I called Casey again. This time I left a voicemail. "Please," I whispered. "If there's a shred of decency in you, say something. Just fix this. I'm dying." She never replied. I got a job washing dishes under the table. Cash only. Worked 12 hours a day, slept in my car, and used gas stations to clean myself up. Winter hit hard. One night I woke up in the back seat shaking so bad I thought my heart would stop. But I didn't go to a shelter. Pride, maybe, or shame. I started avoiding mirrors. I couldn't stand the sight of my own face. Some nights, I walked by the bridge near the highway just to look. Just to wonder, would it be fast? Would it hurt? I wasn't suicidal, not exactly. But I didn't care if I lived. I stopped speaking to people. I stopped defending myself. The world had already written its story. I was just a ghost floating through it. At my lowest point, I remember seeing a flyer at a bus stop. Some stupid motivational thing. Rock bottom can be a foundation. I laughed out loud. Loud enough to make a woman nearby clutch her purse and walk away faster. That was my life now. Punchline. A threat. A name people whispered like poison. And the worst part? Somewhere, she was still living in that house. Still being comforted. Still being believed. And I was alone. It was February when I finally broke. Not with screaming, not with some dramatic collapse, just a quiet kind of surrender. The kind that settles in your bones when you're too tired to fight anymore. I was sitting on a milk crate behind the diner I washed dishes at, wearing the same hoodie I'd slept in for weeks. My fingers were numb. My stomach hadn't felt full in days. I was running out of reasons to exist. That's when Frank showed up. He wasn't anyone special, not at first glance. Just a thick-set guy in his 50s with salt and pepper stubble and a limp. He was the early morning delivery driver. Dropped off the bread and coffee beans. Never said much. But that morning he didn't leave right away. He looked at me for a long time, then sat beside me on the crate. Didn't speak for a full minute. Then, "You look like you're deciding something," he said. I didn't reply. Couldn't. He reached into his coat, pulled out a thermos, poured coffee into the cap, and handed it to me. I didn't ask for it, didn't thank him. I just drank. It was the first hot thing I'd had in days. That moment cracked something in me. Over the next few weeks, Frank kept talking to me. Nothing preachy. Just stories. About the people he used to know. About mistakes he'd made. About second chances. Sometimes he didn't talk at all. Just sat there, like my silence was something he understood. Then one day he said, "My buddy runs a garage. Needs someone who'll show up and shut up. You in?" I nodded before I even thought about it. It wasn't glamorous. Oil changes, tire rotations, cleaning up other people's messes. But it was cash. And more than that, it was structure. Frank gave me a cot in his garage loft. Place to sleep. a key, and rules. He made me shower, eat, read. He handed me a flyer for a therapy group one day and said, "If you want to stop bleeding, stop hiding the wound." I went. I sat in the back for 3 weeks before I spoke. But when I finally did, I couldn't stop. I cried. I shook. I let it all out. The group didn't look at me like a monster. They looked at me like a man trying to rebuild with shards. And slowly, piece by piece, I did. I got certifications, took night classes, worked my way up at the garage, built muscle, built routine, built me. I stopped waiting for apologies, stopped begging for truth. For the first time in years, I looked in the mirror and saw something more than a ghost. I wasn't healed. Not yet. But I wasn't broken anymore either. 5 years passed. In that time, I rebuilt not just my life, but myself. The version of me that existed before Casey's lie. He died on that living room carpet the moment my father called me a monster. The man I became? He was forged in silence, in oil-stained hands and therapy chairs, in conversations with frank and strangers who knew what it was like to be discarded. I didn't just survive. I built something worth keeping. I became partner at the garage. We expanded, took on restoration work. I got my own apartment, my own routine. Peace. Not the loud, gloating kind. The quiet, earned kind that lives in early mornings and clean kitchens. I met someone too. Her name was Maya. She brought her car in one day, cursing at the engine. I told her it was the alternator, not her fault. She laughed, and then stayed for coffee. She never asked about my past, not at first. But when I told her, all of it, she didn't flinch. She said, "That's not who you are. That's what happened to you." We moved in together a year later. She made the place feel alive again. I didn't feel like a ghost with her. Then, one afternoon, while I was cleaning out old voicemail storage on a whim, I saw her name, Casey. There were 5 missed calls. 1 voicemail. Played it. Her voice cracked before she even got a word out. "Nate, I lied. I lied and I ruined everything, and I don't know why. I was scared. I was jealous. I thought if I said it, people would finally care. But I didn't know it would go this far." She sobbed, gasping like someone who just discovered guilt could strangle. Then she said, "Mom and Dad lost the house. They're not talking to me. I have nowhere to go. Please, just call me back." I didn't. Not immediately. But I thought about it. For weeks. Eventually, I drove back to that same old neighborhood. The house was gone. Sold off to pay debts. Overgrown with weeds. Blinds shut tight. I found Casey staying in a motel, looking smaller than I remembered. Her eyes were hollow. Her voice broke when she saw me. She apologized again and again. She offered to tell the truth publicly, to write a statement, to help me sue for defamation. Then she asked the question I knew was coming. "Can I stay with you? Just for a while?" My chest tightened, because in that moment, I realized I had everything I once dreamed of, and I didn't need them to have it. Not their apology, not their guilt, not their presence. But I also needed something from them they'd never given me. Truth. So I asked her to do the one thing she'd never done. Write it down. Every lie. Every detail. Signed and notarized. She hesitated. I stood. She nodded, quietly. That's how I knew. This wasn't about revenge anymore. It was about never letting anyone steal me from myself again. I never did let her stay with me. She mailed the statement a week later. Every detail. Signed. Witnessed. No excuses, no qualifiers. Just a list of lies, and the truth she'd buried me under. I didn't publicize it. I kept it in a lockbox, because at that point, I didn't need the world to believe me anymore. I believed me, and that was enough. My parents never reached out. I don't know if they ever will. Maybe they're too ashamed. Or maybe they're still convinced that silence is safer than remorse. I've made peace with that. I used to think justice meant seeing them suffer, watching them choke on the guilt the way I had to choke down shame. But healing doesn't always wear a courtroom robe or come with applause. Sometimes healing is just waking up, looking in the mirror, and not hating the man staring back. Forgiveness? That's trickier. Some days I think I've forgiven Casey. Other days I remember the night I almost jumped, and I feel that cold wind all over again. But I do know this. Forgiveness isn't a gift for them. It's a release for me. It's the moment I chose not to carry their weight anymore. Not to be the ghost of who they made me. I still go to therapy. Still show up for my life one ordinary day at a time. Maya and I adopted a rescue dog last year. A scared little thing that flinched at shadows. I named him Lucky. People say I'm strong. I'm not. I'm stubborn. I didn't rebuild because I had hope. I rebuilt because I had nothing else. And in that space where everything was stripped away, I found something stronger than survival. I found freedom. Casey made her choices. So did my parents. And I made mine. They built a story that broke me. I built a life they can't tear down again. And that's my truth.
If you made it this far, you're officially part of the drama. Subscribe for more, and tell me in the comments, what would you have done?